seeing these big numbers and trying to manage shit.
Sounds a lot like JCap.
Yeah, I mean, JCap's my boy. He's honestly one of my best friends, and him and I, within having both lost our fathers and within both having degrees in construction management, I talk to JCap regularly. I mean, almost daily. I mean, I mentioned before Trader Roundup, the 501c3, the business 501c3 nonprofit is owned by JCap, Rodrigo, his best friend, and also a very good friend of mine, and myself. So the 501c3 that we have that is called Trader Roundup is JCap, myself, and Rod. So I have a very close affinity and respect and love for JCap. And a lot of that's come through his background, his personal challenges, in in dealing with death in his family, but then also his approach on trading. So um, I say all of that to say, like, kind of getting back to the original question, was I had these wins and they were not sustainable. I had this appetite for risk that was not sustainable. And it burnt through my relationship with my first wife. I continued working in construction and construction management, construction development as my primary income. But I was and always have been and will always be a London-based trader, because being a father and having to take my kid to daycare and having a job and having to work with architects and contractors and owners meant that during New York, I couldn't trade that. The only moves I was going to find, if I was going to find, was waking up super early and focusing on London. And then even studying you said there's going to be an army of folks that once they really understand ICT concepts are going to trade London. And I've kind of always thought of myself being a dad first and foremost, and how much of this audience is old enough to be our children, your children, my children. M7, I threw as well. Similar age, all similar age in our outlook on life, Generation X. And I kind of told myself within all of this, while I still was happily married to my second wife, like, I'm going to be that motherfucker within ICT. And part of my self-speech and manifestation, Michael, was talking to myself like, I'm going to trade with all these hopes and aspirations. I'm going to trade like Michael. And for me, it was always this one day. And I would trade London and I'd go to work, and my uncle lived with me, bro. My uncle, who ended up dying of cancer. It's been a year. But what drove me to social media and quitting my job, I was managing a $50 million portfolio and meeting with the owner, the architectural group, the engineering group, the interior design group. And I was single-handedly managing the schedule and the budget of a $50 million development portfolio. And I would bring people together. Like during COVID, we'd have Teams calls, and I'd have 15, 20, 30 people on a call. And my team, the people that worked under me in my project management team, we'd all be fervently taking notes, and then we'd have to apply the meeting minutes, and then obviously the schedule and the budget, etc. But this community was built on me running teams. The way I talk on a phone here is the same way I would be talking to as an owner rep, to the owner, to the architects, to the city officials, whether we were getting permits, and having this collective mastermind of folks is what a progress meeting is within that environment. And Twitter for me was Microsoft Teams. And I started coming to Twitter and leading these calls 100% exactly the way I would lead these calls in a 9-to-5 job, managing a development budget of tens of millions of dollars. So that's the long story. That's kind of the detailed version of I think answering your question of at least where and how we've got to where we are within the community. It being formed, and what held me together was blind luck with wins. Where most folks lose, I won. But then I took devastating losses that affected my relationship with the my own family. I mean,
No,
my
right there.
ex-wife. Go
That
ahead.
right there is that's what I want to tap into. That right there, that moment. You lost your first wife. Am I understanding correctly that you're a new father at that time too?
Yeah, I was a new father at that time. Yes, sir.
Okay. So now you have all the trials and tribulations that go along with all that, which is normal. When you were being met with, the short-term adversities of not finding consistency, and like you were saying, that they were unsustainable wins. Once you would get them, you couldn't replicate them. What did you specifically, you the person, the trader, the person that had to deal with all of that weight on you as the new father, as the single dad, and you're trying to carve out a future for your kid and better yourself too, while still maintaining gainful employment. What were you going to as a source of encouragement to continuously keep doing it? I mean, it's one thing to say, you know, it's unsustainable and it was lucky, but you were still dealing with the adversities. So what was it that you did to stay motivated? Because most people would have said, "The fuck this, I'm out of here. Like I can't deal with it. I got a kid to take care of. I got to keep working, and this is just going to have to be a pipe dream. I'll put it aside until another time." Like what motivated you? Because I have students that say, I like listening to Tony Robbins. I like listening to Grant Cardone, and I like listening to whatever. Was there another
Yeah, there
third
was,
party
brother.
thing? What was it?
This is emotional for me to even say this. It was you, Michael. It was you. You gave me more hope. You empowered me. And the more I found you, and the more I listened to you, the more I knew that I could find consistency, and that it wasn't blind luck, and that it was a skill set. And I had to work a full-time job. I had to be a dad to a little one, and I had to come home and I had to put away the gambler, and I had to dial into you, which is where and how I started literally memorizing your work and getting access to whatever I could get access to. I am not a private mentorship student. I said this in our conversation before. I seeked out and I found bootleg ICT content, and I poured myself into it. It was the only beacon of light at that time that I had. It was the only hope I had. It was you, Michael. You gave me, you were the full moon in the darkness that was a very destructive, self destructive path of thinking I could do things that I couldn't, not knowing what I didn't know. Me hanging up the gambler's shoes to really focus on the skill set to try to become a legitimate trader. You were the first and really the only voice that brought clarity to me in a time when I had a baby and I was juggling a lot and life was extremely difficult. I found peace in listening, staying up late at night and following your reviews and your concepts and things that you were sharing, and then being able to apply it in demo on the charts and saying I'm not going to wreck myself, I'm going to focus on the skill set. A lot of what I preach and advocate to other traders 100% is because I've been down that dark road.
Lonely, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. and wrecking yourself is in destroying, like, the gambler in me, the addictive personality in me let it ride, and I lost relationships, and that really impacted me. And one of the things that I've tried to instill within this community is my own struggles and challenges, and why folks, I think, come up to talk. I mean, my life, Michael, my wife left me for a dude 40 minutes away, telling me she was going to yoga. She's fucking some dude 40 minutes away. I'm going on ski trips with my daughter. No, go enjoy Mount Hood with Sienna. She's fucking and sucking some dude because he's giving her time and attention that I'm not. Because my attention, my mistress, was the market. And not only that, I was working a real job, and I was taking the savings, our savings, and I was putting them back in the market, betraying her trust.
So would you
Because
say at that time, was there ever a time when she was behind you in that endeavor and maybe falling away?
I mean, when I had some payouts, brother, she was the first one to fucking suck me that one kind of way and treat me like that one kind of way with the wins. Yeah, when the wins were there, when I bought her the brand new Tesla, when I paid for the house, yeah, she was that one, and it was awesome. But she was there for the good moments, and she resented me for the bad.
Your second wife, was there ever a support structure from her in your pursuit of trading, or was it a void?
Only when I won, bro. She couldn't really shoulder or accept the fact that I was dealing or that I would encounter losses. And
Hmm.
no, so I mean, honestly, I would say, Michael, she was a poison pill to my trading, and she brought a level of expectation that I couldn't shoulder. So I wasn't coming to the charts just for me, and it's hard enough me versus me, right? And now
Hmm.
it's me versus her, which is why I think ultimately the relationship fell apart.
When you had your losses and you were a new dad, and now you are a single parent, divorced, when you had those losing trades, do you believe that they were magnified in the weight when you would be looking at your child and thinking, if I didn't have this child, this would suck still, but this is so much now more worse because I feel like I'm feeling not only myself but that child too. Did you have those moments?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I stopped trading, and I was working full time, and I was studying trading, and I was trying to pick up what you were putting down within your life's work and within the different series that I would find, and I would focus on demo because the shrapnel from a bomb blowing up, I couldn't handle it emotionally as a father. I couldn't. I could not. And for a long time, I just straight stopped trading. I mean, I stopped trading options, that's for sure. I stopped trading zero TE options even after having made a lot. I just kept having these insufferable losses that I couldn't handle emotionally, and I felt that I was failing my daughter. Not to mention the women that were, you know, stroking my ego or stroking my, you know, me.
Hmm.
So
I remember
yeah,
when my
I
son
went back to
youngest,
demo. I went back to demo and tried to focus on the skill set, and that was for a very long time. Even emotionally dealing with my ex-wife, even this year, I spent a lot of time in demo because I didn't feel like I was emotionally capable. I was still focused on the skill set, trying to practice what I preach, practice what you preach.
What were the things that were the most helpful to you? Like when you say that they were inspirational to you, like what specific things? Was it a specific concept or is it a mindset thing? I don't recall doing too much of the mindset. I was really primarily focused on teaching conceptual things early on. So I don't know what you were tapping into in terms of finding that
I mean, it was your
encouragement.
accuracy, it was your execution, it was someone to look up to. I mean, as a trader, and I know you don't love, I mean, it's from my generation, you're Michael Huddleston, you were Michael Jordan. And when you think of a young boy aspiring to be a professional athlete and looking up to someone, again, I was getting bootleg content and random weekly reviews, and you were like, you were able to succeed with my concepts, and you weren't involved with the cohesive structure that I formulated for the people that were part of my mentorship. I I just pieced and stitched together the principles that you provided, and more importantly, you gave me someone to look up to, and that hope and that aspiration is what kept me coming to the charts. And then eventually finding solace in demo and finding solace in, even though I'm going to go work, this can't hurt me. And for a long time, trading was just hurting me, even though I was, and I've made far more money than I lost in dumb luck, but I've still lost houses in a day, in a week, a lot. So the adding up the zeros, it wasn't just, I mean, folks have a simulated account and a demo account, and I just lost a lot, man. I lost a lot, and it wiped out a lot of my gains. I mean, my brother drives a McLaren, he's a multimillionaire, and I'm 46. I spend a lot of my time on social media, and I'm not broke, but I'm not where I want to be. I'm not where I know I'm capable of being.
If you
I
could go
know
back
I
in
have that
time,
clarity. Go ahead.
you had the ability to go back in time, knowing what you know about yourself right now, what you know about the experiences you went through. What would be the top thing that you could go back? You can only pick one thing to change it. You can remove it, change a different direction, change one aspect of something you did in the past while involved in trading. What would that one thing be?
Tracking my performance, tracking my performance as if I were a professional even back then. Journaling, back testing, whatever you want to call it, a performance analysis. Instead of blacking out the devastating trades or decisions that I would make, journaling, journaling and having a performance record. If I could change anything, it would be that,
It's a good
without a
one to
doubt.
pick. What was the catalyst that makes you choose that? And like, what made you start thinking, I need to start doing this?
My results. But the more I started tracking and recording, then the more I started seeing not just patterns, but clear data, and making decisions more based off of data and not patterns was the only type of consistency I could start to build from or create a foundation off of. I it I couldn't trade patterns because I'd lose. It was too discretionary. But tracking my performance and logging my results, good or bad, I mean, my sub answer to that would be my appetite for risk. So, tracking my performance and having a little more sustainable appetite towards risk management, because I didn't. I YOLO'd a lot, and I can put my head down in shame and say that. But
Would you
I
say that was the biggest impact why you weren't finding success or consistency early on? Was it the fact that you, well, let's narrow it down for the listeners, because many times when I talk to students, they use the terms interchangeably when they mean one thing more than the other. Would you say that you were impulsively trading or that you were over leveraging in your trades?
I would say both, brother. I would say I was impulsively trading, especially without tracking a performance, especially without having or utilizing data
Hmm.
or data log. Um, that was I was impulsive and over leveraging, and I was doing it more based on patterns. As soon as I started really tracking a performance and started utilizing data, which again, I give you all the flowers and I have to give M7 flowers as well, because tracking and utilizing data and statistics and having a performance log is really where I started turning the corner in regards to my own consistency, profitability, consistency. I think too many people, including myself, have pulled money out of the market, but can you do it consistently? And that's what even at 46 as a trader, bro, I've been, I have struggled with consistency. And this year, I've really found my edge and my consistency. And that's come through utilizing everything that you've taught and blended it with what I've learned through M7. And I mean that with all the love. And I think you really embrace a trader seeing what they see and trading what they trade. And me being able to analyze, because I have this engineer's mindset, because I mean, because numbers are so important, being able to not just look at a chart, but being able to look at statistics and data, and then even apply my performance within the data. I can look at a high time frame the same way you teach. I can look at 20 years worth of data. I can look at 10 years worth of data. I can look at the last 20 Mondays this year. I can look at the last 10 years of October and what happens in October the last 10 years, the last 20 years, the last 5 years, the last 2 years. And just looking at these tables and graphs and not just candles has given me a consistent edge that I struggled with.
If you could go back and talk to your younger self, what encouragement would you give yourself? And what things would you tell yourself to avoid? These are going to be the biggest problems that's going to be the catalyst for you doing much more work longer than it's necessary to get it.
Never give up. Never give up. Don't don't let blowing an account blow your mental capacity to do this. The mental equity within a chart is so important with us being traders. If I could go back and tell myself anything, I had so many limiting beliefs, self destructive thoughts because of a decision I made on the charts. And that kept me in a cycle, a perpetual cycle of disbelief, of insecurity, And if I could go back and tell myself anything, Michael, would be never give up. And it's not a financial account you're blowing your mental account, your mental capacity to believe in yourself. And only through consistency, doesn't even have to say the word profitability. Only through consistency is where the mental capital came. The limiting beliefs dissipated, or the I can do this was louder than the I can't. I'll never. It's I can, I will. Look, he can do it. Why can't I? What am I doing? For me, it wasn't any one individual concept of yours, Michael. It was being Michael Jordan. And then it was which way am I going to utilize this skill set for myself? And then coming across very detailed PAM models, again, bootleg, but a London-based protraction model. I trade London. Hey, wait, there's a central bank dealers range. Oh, wait, that's between 2 and 8 o'clock, and then 8 o'clock to 12 o'clock is the flout, is Asia, and together combined, they're the flout. The flout's a half standard. I can measure that. It's 23 pips. It's 28 pips, 28 ticks. I can quantify the size. I can create specific data-based rules that exist. So every single time that I blew an account, I fed my demon. And only after trialing so much in demo and finding consistency without actually hurting myself that I started to feed belief. And only after having a performance record and tracking my performance, my analytics, studying data, did I unlock what I believe is my own consistency. Same framework every day. 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock. Your silver bullet times are the times that the DR forms. So for me, it's the same framework every day. Every day, I'm looking at the same framework, and then I'm basing my rule set around the model that I believe Price is providing. And because you've taught so many, because I've been exposed to so much from you, but also M7, I have a lot of models that I can engage in with Price. And it's as we've all stated, it's if then, if when, and specific conditions need to be met. And then I can look at, like I said, what's the performance of Tuesdays over the last 10 years in October. I can review that, and I can see if London goes long, that there could be a 56 to 70% chance that New York's going to go long too. And constructing those data models, I've been able to trade with more probability. And within the probability in the data has also come more consistency. So I hope I answered your question. I feel long-winded.
No, you're fine. I'm trying to be patient so that way because these aren't easy questions to answer. I mean, because it's you have to reflect on a long period of time. It's one of those kind of questions where you want to be as honest and direct so that way you can really communicate the gravity of what I'm asking. And for folks that have just started learning how to trade, they don't understand it. And for the folks that have been at it for a while, these types of questions are paramount because it's important to see what other people have gone through And you've mentioned, what your weaknesses were early on. What would you say, some of your strengths are now, having gone through everything in terms of adversity and trying to discover who you are and how to work through your character flaws like every trader does? What would you say your strengths are today?
I'd say my number one strength is, and it has to do with what my job was as a 9 to 5. And I say this to a lot of folks is we are professional decision makers. And I feel like I have wisdom and experience and reflection that today I make good decisions on and off the charts.
What would you
That's
say that is the contributing factors that you employ now that makes you a good decision maker, whereas in the beginning you can readily admit probably you weren't the best at decision making then. What things are you putting in practice now as a more refined trader with more experience, more in the trenches, scar tissue, the moxie now? What is it that you're employing now that makes you better in that area?
the realization that the decisions that I make, I'm making in the mirror and that I can't hide from them.
Wonderful.
I I always thought that the rules applied to everyone else but me, and that I could get away with not having to follow the rules. But when I'm defining what those rules are and I have to look in the man in the mirror is defining those decisions that I'm making, you can't hide from that. And it took me a long time to not be able to hide from the decisions I was making because a lot of the decisions I was making were self destructive. And the biggest change that I've made is holding myself accountable and holding myself accountable on Front Street. This group has been very therapeutic for me over the last year, being in a lot of emotional drawdown. This talking amongst traders has been very therapeutic for them and me. And not hiding from, not being capable of hiding from the decisions I make on and off the chart. Off the chart matters so much more. And I don't think I realized that. I thought I could just be reckless, but somehow I would still operate within this level of precision. And I would make reckless decisions. I would do reckless things. I mean, even if it's just drinking and partying and, you know, doing what a lot of kids do, up all night, getting faded, fucking, and then turning around and thinking you're going to engage in the charts the next day with some kind of precision, like you're actually going to work to make a financial decision.
Do you think that in the early stages of your trading, did you ever use trading as an escape from whatever you were feeling at the time? Like you just feel like you wanted to win something to feel like you were a winner for the sake of winning that trade?
Oh, how many times have I gone to the market for validation when everything else was falling apart? Risking it all to try and feel validated with a win, holding my breath, not having rules or framework, making a discretionary decision, not journaling, not back testing, yet somehow thinking that trade was going to answer my problem, my bigger problem. I did it a lot, Michael. I did it a lot.
Would you say that today with more maturity and a more objective approach to doing what it is that we do as professional decision makers. Would you say that today's mindset that you employ is more aligned with following a process, a model, pursuing the evidence that the data would suggest is statistically probable for you to be doing what you're doing versus having any emotional or psychological reward for the basis outside of doing what is in the model?
I mean, 100%. I mean, for the audience folks listening, like Andrew Tate, I think he can be a motivational voice. He might be divisive, but I was in some pretty deep, dark drawdown mentally and emotionally, and I had some one-on-ones with M7 who pretty much said, "Listen, pussy, motherfucker, get up. Quit making excuses. The only way you're going to win is by start acting like a fucking winner." Right? And if you think of, like, if you were to Google Andrew Tate motivation, like, that's what M7 was for me in some of my deepest, darkest times. And he was in my ear and literally talking to me for hours. And that really helped me. That lifted me up. That lifted me up in a time that, you know, I was struggling, man. I felt like I felt worthless. I mean, a woman that I spent 8 years with, I mean, that my wife leaving me for another dude, that really fucked with me, Michael. And it really fucked with my trading. It really, even though I had had all of these clarity and understanding of what these concepts were and even how to measure them, and I was doing better, it just fucked with me. And he kind of found me at a time. He found me, and he poured into me, and he invested a lot of time and energy into me to help me see what my potential was. And he was like an Andrew Tate voice of, like, you're a winner, you can win, you know how to win, you're not a pussy, you're not weak, get the fuck up and be who you are, realize your own potential. There's a zillion fucking women out there, and guess what, all of them want to be with a high value guy that really men, only 1% of them are actually going to be. You're that motherfucker. And I mean, I think we all need that friend. We all need that mentor. We all need that shoulder. And he really was that for me, man. He really was. Not only that, like, just all the statistics and data and the way he was able for me to supercharge your concepts really made me more inclusive. Like, I'd see the Twitter beef and this tribal, like, oh no, fuck you, no, fuck you, oh no, my way's better, no, my way's better. It's like, hold on, hold on. We're all adults here. We're all adults. And if I were to tell you that I've found a way successfully to blend A and B to create my own version of C, and that works, and it doesn't contradict, and they play nice together. Like, do y'all really need to argue and fight about all of this? And instead of arguing and fighting, it's again inclusive, and I've embraced blending your concepts with his concepts, and finding my own way to trade. And it has developed consistency and models that are utilizing your models and his models as confluences, ways of stacking up. It's not just one thing, right? It's all these ingredients going into a cake. And Yeah, man. And what comes out is consistency. And after you get consistency, then comes profitability. And then we all get to deal with within profitability, dealing with then it's not a question of fear, insecurity, but then it's the other side of the spectrum. It's overconfidence, it's greed. In the yin and the yang of trading, like first you don't know what the fuck you're doing. And then once you know what you're doing, you still don't know what the fuck you're doing. Because you just get to be on the other end. So that yin and yang of not knowing what you don't know, but then knowing what you know, but then you don't know what you don't know. And that swing, I think, focusing on a framework, focusing on a model, focusing on consistency, that's that's what we preach every day. That's what I try and utilize this platform for every day, is to talk to the 20-year-old myself who hasn't gone through the difficult, arduous, lonely, dark journey that is binding consistency. I mean, fuck profit, because you ain't gonna. If you're profit, you're gonna. If you're profitable, you're a fraud because you can't do it again. And that's what I struggled with a lot, kind of on my journey, Michael.
What's your
Go ahead.
goals for the next 5 years?
My goals for the next 5 years are to take Trader Roundup, my 501c3 nonprofit, and impact real lives. Real lives. Shed light in dark places. Follow in the footsteps of the great men that have led before me, my mentors. I want to be, I want to utilize my increase to be impactful, help others less fortunate, folks that haven't been blessed, folks that are still on their journey. So my goal is obtuse. It's to be more impactful. Honing it in, I want to be the best father I can be, the best son I can be. I want to be the best lover I can be. I want to be the best trader I can be. I want to be the best version of myself. And turning 46 in 2 weeks, I know what that looks like. Mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. I'm more in touch with my spiritual purpose in having an impact after watching not one, but two men, mentors, my father and my uncle die. And they died with a whimper. No one went to their funeral. Not because they weren't great men, but they didn't have an impact on a lot of other people. They just had that impact on me, which was enough because I didn't have one father figure, I had two. My mom's brother and my dad. Lost my dad in 2014. Lost my uncle last year. And losing my uncle, I told myself, and that's when I turned to social media, that I wanted to have an impact on this world. I wanted to leave a legacy. I wanted people to know my name. So my goal in the next 5 years, Michael, is motherfuckers are going to know my name as not just a community builder, but as a great fucking trader. That's my goal. And I want to take my trades and my gains and me being impactful, and I want to help the skinny kids that don't have anything, whose mother and father left them, who are being brought up by their grandma, who can't pay the rent, who haven't eaten. And that's not a 5-year goal. That's a today goal. That's what I focus on. I don't need to talk about what I do to other people, but that's what I do. I don't do it for social media. I don't do it for this platform. But I'm here to help and impact the lives of the millions of other people who are misfortunate, unfortunate, and that struggle. And that's it.
I have one last question, and you can ask me some stuff. What what words of encouragement would you give someone that has started learning how to trade? It doesn't have to be my stuff. What words of encouragement would you tell someone that has tried to sit down and they look at these charts and it looks like hieroglyphics in a foreign language they've never learned before, and it feels so insurmountable that they can't even imagine being able to tell what this thing is going to tell you to do, to buy or sell, to make money? How do you make money? What should I do? Like, what words of encouragement for those individuals that are right there at that crossroad, contemplating this is probably going to be too hard for them. Maybe they shouldn't try to do it. What would you tell them?
I would tell them to stop focusing on the Lambos and the account flippers with the foreign brokerage accounts that are utilizing a marketing platform to try and sell them a get rich quick scheme. I would tell people to listen to and find a voice that you can trust, that has your interest in teaching you a model and a framework. And the most important thing, track, manage, log your performance. Every trade is a lesson because you're going to lose a lot. You're going to acquire a lot of lessons. But if you don't know what time and price, where they were, what they were doing, you don't have a model if you don't have data. You don't have a framework. You don't have consistency if you're trying to follow some motherfucker who's driving around in a Lambo telling you how to trade. So find credible resources to learn from. Focus on tracking and managing your lessons. And in the world that we live in, data is king. You ain't shit if you ain't got reps. It doesn't matter how I trade. It matters how you trade. That would be it, bro. That's what that's the advice I would give. I mean,
Very good.
so I get to ask you a couple questions.
If we could encapsulate it in 30 minutes,
Yes.
yeah,
Well, I
that's fine.
mean, I'd love to just kind of, I think a lot of people want to know, like, the burning question on social media is like, what's Michael Huddleston going to do after November 11th? I mean, that's the first question I think of at the top of my head. I mean, is that okay? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I want to do a lot of fishing. I want to do a lot of personal things with my wife, some of the things that she wants to spend time with doing as a couple. Um, Travel. She wants to go to certain destinations, and I'm going to make myself available to do that so we could go and have those moments together. She wants a scrapbook, like she wants to see us bouncing around a little bit, globe travel a little bit, and that's a little hard for me because I don't want to fly. So everything's going to have to be either cruise or mainland. So she's been working on me in regards to certain destinations. She wants to go to Italy and she wants to see France and Ireland. I like Ireland. There was a time when I was contemplating moving to Ireland. There was also a time when I was contemplating moving to the UK. She wasn't on board with that, but um, just basically just being a person away from charts. I'm gonna trade, but I'm not trying to be inner circle trader anymore. So I just want to be her husband and the dad to my kids and encourage them and try to help them become better at what two of them are interested in, and I want to try to supercharge that. So, and I don't want to be in the spotlight online.
Okay. When you what degree, again, I'm trying to think of not just looking at questions, but I'm trying to think of what the listener would want to know if they had the opportunity to stand up here and ask you a question. The burning question I think of, what are your books going to be about? Is it going to be technical science? Is it going to be a story? Is it going to be a written mentorship? Is there a flavor? I'm sure you've already got these books written. So I'm curious as to what you'd be willing to reveal to us, because I feel like I'm asking you like the the hard questions that the community wants to know, right? And
The
I don't know.
the three technical books are going to be basically the only way I can condense, the only way I could sit down and condense. Now that I've released the language, um, in my mentorship, the paid mentorship, the charter level stuff, there's people out there trying to sell the price action models. Okay. And I'm on record saying this, and I told them when I released them that these are very demanding in terms of parameters. Things have to be this way, or you can't trade them. Knowing that the majority of the people that were in my mentorship and still are waiting for me to produce new videos, which notice there ain't no videos. I told y'all I'm not going to make them videos anymore because they want to sell it. I've made millionaires in different countries because they sold this stuff. And I get it. It was hot. It was the drug of choice for a little while. And the language that I've released and made public now, well, perfect example, I was doing a live stream the other day and I was unaware. I was very confident, overconfident that the audio was working. I didn't even bother asking on Twitter like I have been to see if everybody could confirm they could hear me. But it was very encouraging to see people tweeting to me saying, even though I don't hear you audibly, I hear you audibly. I know what you're talking about because you know what I'm doing. If I'm drawing a line above two equal highs or relatively equal highs, you know what's up out there, buy side and sell side. And I'm drawing out rectangles. So you know that this is where my focus is. And I told my son, I said, that to me is awesome. And for someone that's not a trader or aware of what it is I'm trying to draw a spotlight to, it won't mean anything to them. But because you have spent time with me, that means you understand my language. So if you've never read the book Street Smarts, okay, I thought that book was done in a way where it scratched an itch that I didn't know I had. because I thought that trading had to be absolutely next to impossible, and it was a puzzle that only a few could figure out, and I wasn't going to put it down until I figured it out. I believe God gave me obsessive compulsive for that very reason. Every mental disorder I have is a superpower. In the beginning, as a child, I thought it was a weakness. So it's in the vein and writing style of Street Smarts, that they have very specific, they call it patterns. I have specific models. So I'm going to be releasing very specific models and amplifications of the ones that I've already taught because they get better than what I've already shared. Those are the three things. And then I'm going to draw on the core content lessons so that way you can see that this is what's available to you. You don't have to do it this way, but this is just one more way to skin the cat. The fourth one is the one that everybody seems to be asking about in emails and reaching out to me on letters. Like they'll mail me letters and say, "Look, can you just talk about what that book's going to be about? Can you do this and can you do that?" So I'll let the cat out of the bag because I don't think this is going to be the book that people really care too much about, and I don't care if you buy any of them really. I just want to put it in written format so that way it has association to me as the author. In my coming up, okay, in my coming up as a trader, I met a lot of people, and certain individuals were interested in me because I was able to do things publicly, like you all see me doing right now. I was doing that with the commodity market. Now, I wasn't always accurate. My hit rate wasn't as what you all see today. When I talk about something publicly and it happens, that's a track record. I'm not deleting anything. I'm not giving two sides of a coin and saying, let's flip it and whatever side comes up, I'm going to be calling myself the winner. It's very specific things I'm teaching and touching on when I'm referring to price. And if you do that type of stuff in in a world where it's rare to see it, in a new medium, which was the internet, because on America Online, you know, that was the thing back then. Everybody was enamored by it, willing to pay too much money for just an hour worth of access to it and wait forever for things to load up. Folks reached out to me, and there's people out there literally talking a bunch of bullshit for the sake of clout. But the Commodity Futures Trading Commission literally subpoenaed me. Okay, and I had a desktop computer, and I facetiously, and like a dick move, I made a comment in the Corps. I told Corps before we started the interview. I said, "Look, there's some things I'm going to talk about, other things I'm not going to talk about. Um, certain things I do talk about harm me in every sense of the word. So there's going to be certain points where you'll ask me, and then I'll say I'm not going to talk about that, and I ask you to be respectful of that and make sure it's not in the final cut. But there's other things I divulged and talked about in terms of, you know, how I got this information and meeting people and seeing things that would, by anyone else's description, would be considered out of this world. Some of those experiences won't be believable. They're just simply not going to be believable to people. And I've shared some of my testimonies that are outside of trading, and they sound like made up stories. And I don't care what people's opinions are. I really don't care because they happened. I experienced it. I'm bringing the receipts to show you that these things caused this change in me, that I can't say this is the reason why. It really was this. It really was this teacher, this book. It was really this thing, this strategy that I renamed like everybody else say. I have had literally Old Testament experiences that I don't know how else to say except for this is what happened. I you know